Gather round, folks, let me tell you about our friends Craig and LeBlanc, where the good times never end. Talking parks and rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Come along, now take a listen.
Let's talk about all of your enemies here. You've got fungus, you've got bugs, you've got weeds, you've got thorns. Like, let's just lay out all the enemies that these poor grass guys are getting ready to go wage war against in Mother Nature.
Absolutely. I think everybody in general is fighting a weed, which the definition of a weed is an unwanted plant. So Bermuda could be your weed. If you don't want Bermuda in your yard, that's
it, and everyone can now get every quote from it.
That's right. We need to make that one of our episodes, just to kind of watch 15 minutes of it during the lawn maintenance.
I laughed because the first golf course I was ever on, whenever I walked in the office, that's what all the screensavers were on the computer, and I was like, I'm in the right place.
Quite a windy
All right.
here.
We are live now.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on.
We are live with this is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I've got Garrett James with me. He's over in, you said it's around the Houston area. Did I hear you right?
North Texas. So I'm just
Part
about
of Texas?
35 minutes east of Dallas.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So Garrett has a very interesting story as to far as how he got into Parks and Rec, what he does right now with the skill set that Parks and Recreation gave him, and how a private company actually reached out to him so that he could use all the gifts and talents that he developed in Parks and Rec with an electrical producer. And so I wanted to kind of have him on the show just so that we can show all the diversity that Parks and Rec talent can be applied to. So welcome to the show, Garrett. How'd your week go?
Thank you for having me on. It's been a beautiful week. It's just been very windy here. We're averaging about 15 miles an hour right now, and hopefully that teeters off tonight so we can get some stuff done over the weekend. But it's just a very windy week. Beautiful spring though.
Yeah, we had some serious winds hit me yesterday with some harsh rains in Nashville, Tennessee. I am now in Jasper, Alabama, one of our actually sponsors for the show. They actually buy some of our LED lights, which is kind of like our Girl Scout cookie. You know, if you want to get a little kid on a camp out and buy a bunch of cookies, Thin Mints, whatever you want, and then they'll apply all that to their little camp out. Similarly, Peter Cosmiano, the director here, they buy our LED lights. And now that I do this full time, any light I sell, 100% of that profit is plowed back into making this show the best media company for Parks and Recreation. So appreciate Peter doing that for us. So maybe give us a little bit of background into how you got into Parks and Rec. And you came in on the maintenance side, correct?
Absolutely. So my background was I jumped around a lot in like different fields whenever it first started out. I went to college for welding technologies, came out, welded for a little while, figured out it just wasn't the field. I feel like there's plenty of people that have the same story. There's just wasn't the field you really wanted to be in whenever you actually got to doing it.
Right.
That led into just hands-on work. I was always good at working on engines. My father taught me a lot whenever it comes to just knowing anything to do with your hands and stay busy. And so started working on engines and got a email one day from a gentleman who was like, hey, we need help on our golf course. All of our equipment needs to be worked on and we need somebody to be here full time to do it. And I was like, never worked anywhere in golf, but I can fix anything. So let's do it. So that kind of got me into the golf world. Then in the off season, so the slow time during the winter, I really got to do a lot of the riding around with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent at that time. And I was still fairly young. So they were teaching me the agronomy side of things and just general how to grow grass, how to maintain, how to keep everything orderly, and just the systems and how everything's working, chemical applications, pesticides, herbicides. They really gave me a deep dive into it. And that kind of coincided. I went to another golf course, did the same thing, was doing a little bit of mechanical work and just was still learning more and more and more about the day-to-day operations of golf. which led me to another golf course where I was actually the assistant superintendent at the course. So it really took a deep dive. I was running crews, I was helping with applications. It was just really, really getting me into golf and the agronomy side of things. And I was like, man, I love this. I like this more than turning wrenches, and I like turning wrenches.
Man, now agronomy, is that, what is that, the study of lawn maintenance, grass,
Yeah,
or
grass.
so,
Yep. Basic, just growing grass, how to grow
growing
grass.
grass? Now that is such when we think it's easy, because most people, all they do is just cut the grass and maybe rake the yard. And if they're really fancy, they'll put some weed and feed one time a year or something. And that's the extent of the grass cutting knowledge. So I know it's so much more, because I remember when I was a young man, I worked as an electrician for this high school. They were one of my clients, and they were a really fancy Episcopalian high school. So they had a lot of money. And they hired somebody that maintained a golf course. And this guy was like a magician when it came to growing grass. And I mean, it was a whole nother level. And so I got to talk to him a lot for a few years. And I had a whole different level of respect for people that can keep lawn that immaculate and stuff. So maybe if you wouldn't mind, go into the details a little bit about what it takes to maintain a healthy lawn like that.
Absolutely. And I don't consider myself an expert in any of these fields. The people who taught me these things were the same way. They were absolute wizards whenever it came to growing grass. My predecessors in the golf course industry, I mean, they could take a pile of dirt and have it look like a world-class golf course in 6 months. I mean, they were just day in, day out grass guys. They were awesome at it. Texas is really is as tough as people think it is to grow grass in Texas, because we get harsh winters, we get harsh summers. It's pretty good to grow grass if you can keep water, and water's always the biggest holdback, especially in our area right now. Every summer we do get water restrictions, so they're cutting back on people on water in their lawns as much. So it makes it a little bit tougher for your general homeowner to maintain a really, really good lawn. A lot of the businesses have private contracts, or they've got wells, or there's another way to keep water on everything. But right now, our summer regiment, I mean, we're going to be running at least 6 days a week on water. Now we will fine tune everything and make sure that we're not wasting water, because I don't want to ever be in that case where people are having to say, hey, we're just putting water down the drain, whenever really we're trying to keep up with our soil around here. Soil temperatures always is a big thing. Right now we're getting up to the correct temperatures here in Texas. Springtime is moving in. Somewhere in the mid 60s to the mid 70s is whenever your Bermuda grass really starts taking off around here. So I've started to see a big bloom in our Bermuda grass. And then right about the time we hit like 80 to 85, our overseed for our rye will start dying off, which we were putting down in the wintertime just to keep the lawns looking a little bit better than they normally do.
And the
On the
rye is
downside,
annual, correct? The rye
yeah,
is
it's
something
an
that's
annual.
like a winter grass that just kind of. And what's the point of that? Just to keep compaction down, or to keep something up there, because the other grasses, the Bermuda, kind of goes dormant?
Yeah, the Bermudas goes dormant for us in the wintertime, so we'll hit that slowdown period, and the lawn doesn't look as good. I don't like to do our entire campus, because I feel like it's a waste most of the time. But our interiors, where we have a lot of employees moving back and forth, you kind of don't want that blah of the wintertime whenever they're going from building to building in the campus. They want to be able to walk out and say, man, it's the middle of December and look at the lawns, they look great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that
so,
rye is gorgeous. It's like neon green almost.
absolutely. And I mean, it really does. It keeps the crews busy. It keeps everybody active, because we do have, I mean, just in the field alone, it's the wintertime redundancies. It just feels like you're doing the same thing every day, because you don't have a lot going on. Now, I always call wintertime project season, and then summertime's maintenance. You're just keeping up in the summertime, but you can go get a lot of projects done in your wintertime. So people do have their slowdowns during the winter, but I take advantage of every second of it we can, so we can get the other stuff done that we're going to be too busy to finish during the summer.
Yeah. Now, let's just say someone wants to get into field maintenance like that. where do you say they would just start? Just getting on with a crew and just start? Because I know most people just start cutting grass. That's they just get
Mhm.
thrown on some turn lawnmower. But let's say you want to go into actually maintaining the lawn, planting, understanding, how grass works, and then all the chemicals and stuff. Where's your first steps in this industry?
Absolutely. I can speak for a lot of the guys that I've met in the industry. It's for the young guys, say, coming into high school and early college days. I mean, to be honest with you, jump on a grass crew. Find
Mm,
people that are mowing that lawn in that neighborhood. Find the crew leader and just say, "Hey, man, I want to learn it and I want to make some money while I'm doing it."
mm,
And let them throw you in the fire. You're not going to know everything. Nobody does. So jump in and just start knocking it out. Pick up every bit of information you can. The other side of it is kind of I mean, you'll always luck out sometimes, but go to those golf courses, go to your local guys and start knocking on doors, go up to the maintenance facilities and say, hey, find the superintendent, say, hey, can I jump in your crew for the summer? They always need more help. I don't care what golf course it is, they always need more help.
mhm,
So go find the superintendent, go find the assistant, find somebody on the crew and just say, hey, I want to come out and help and just be willing to learn. There's a lot of people that are coming out there and they just want to get the day over with and go home. But those guys, you get noticed if you really want to take initiative and figure out how this actually works, what's going on here, what's going on there, and really put the extra time in. Just surround yourself with smart people.
mm.
Surround yourself with busy people. If somebody's busy, it means they're working, and they usually know what they're doing. So I'm knock doors, be friendly, talk to people, and be willing to learn. I started just mowing grass at first, started doing a little bit of land management in teenage years. First got a pickup truck, was able to move a mower from longer distances instead of walking.
Mhm.
And just, I mean, the ability to the blessing of gab, be able to talk to anybody and make a friend wherever you're at goes a long ways, and always be willing to learn. I mean, I learn something new every week.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't consider myself an expert in anything, but what is the what do they say? 10,000 hours is
Oh,
what
yeah.
it takes to master something.
Yep.
I think it's probably more than that. But
Yeah.
absolutely go talk to people and just be willing to jump in something head first.
Yeah, absolutely. You are who you surround yourself by. So if you want to master something, you need to go hang around the masters, and all their wisdom just starts to rub off on you. And I find that people that have a high degree of mastery in something really enjoy teaching it. And so
Mhm.
if you're around really good people and they've dedicated their life to it, it's been my experience that nothing sets a master on fire like being able to just talk about and teach about what they're passionate about, what they've mastered.
Absolutely. And that's what I've been lucky enough to be around a lot of people that want to pass the knowledge. Some
Mhm.
people want to hold on to it, but a lot of people are like, hey, you're going to have to do this after I get done doing it. So I want you to be able to do it as well as I did it. Or whenever I'm not here, I need somebody else to be able to take care of the stuff. So they really do. They pass along the knowledge and they're looking for the best of what's going on around them.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you there's no shortage of masters that think if you want it done right, do it yourself kind of thing. And it's not because they're not constantly trying to get people to do parts of their job, but oftentimes when they ask someone else to do it, it's never done with the degree of mastery that they're doing it. So sometimes they get
Mhm.
disheartened by people that aren't willing to learn, that aren't willing to apply what they're teaching or even listen to what their teachings are. So I think if you approach just about any master and you actually listen to them and try to apply what they're teaching, they're probably going to break their back trying to feed you
Mhm.
even more stuff because you'd be more rare as a student of theirs than those that are really just here for a paycheck, which I think is common in almost every industry.
Absolutely. And I mean, it goes just like you said, it goes throughout every industry. And I've got buddies and friends and people I know in just about every industry. And I know they're experts in the field. So it's like, if I got electrical needs, I'm going to call so and so. If I got this, I'm going to call so and so because they're masters at it. And same thing goes for them whenever they've got tree issues or yard issues or something's going on with their mowers or they want to do a chemical application. I know my phone's going to ring because, I mean, everybody who's in these fields knows that they can rely on somebody else to help them out with that information because it's
Mhm.
what they do day in and day out. It's what they enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, what's rare in this world is, not a master willing to teach, but a student willing to learn. That's
Absolutely.
what we're that's what masters are looking for. So, if you want to know and if you're a student eager to learn, you're what's rare. An eager student that's got good listening skills, that's open to, learning from a master. You just need to really present yourself, and then, you ever heard that expression, "When the student is ready, the master will appear"?
Hmm.
That's true. Um, okay, so let's talk about the different grasses and stuff. And by the way, if now that I'm seeing where this conversation is going, learning more about you and your background, I am trying to put together for anyone else that's listening. This is a 1 hour show dedicated to leaders in Parks and Rec, people telling their story and sharing their mastery in whatever area of Parks and Rec. But what we want to do is create a 1 hour show before this just on maintenance. And so that's going to be a lot of field maintenance, pool maintenance, chemicals, running, all these massive facilities throughout the country. So it'll probably take us about a month or so to get all the people together, but perhaps you could come on maybe once a month or something and talk grass or whatever it is on the maintenance side. Um,
Absolutely.
so let's talk about the different types of grass that you'll see inside of any kind of field or any kind of in Texas or anywhere else. What are the? I've heard Bermuda. Is that the big one?
Yeah, Bermuda's the big one. Coming out of golf, we were seeing a lot of people switching off of a bent grass, which I didn't have a lot of background in bent grass, but a lot of the golf courses in our region were historically bent grass and they were moving away for Bermuda. During the hot periods in the summer, they were having to, I mean, they had to keep fans on the greens and stuff to keep the grass cool enough so that it wasn't dying off during the heat of the summers.
Mhm.
I know some of the most updated courses that have been built in probably the last 5 to 10 years. I mean, they went as far as to have water lines that zigzag throughout the greens to keep the soil temperatures down so they can flow water through there just because the bent grass wouldn't handle it as well. So a
Mhm.
lot of people have moved away to the different strains of the Bermuda grasses that go in. You've got common, which is what will just pop up in your yard or in a field somewhere, and that's what most people will see. And that's your general, to like, oh, that's Bermuda, has runners that run across your lawn. So you'll see these
Mhm.
long strands. I mean, they'll be 30-foot long Bermuda grass growing that way. Your general grass that you're buying from like Home Depot or a grass supplier that you're getting in pallets of grass will be like a 419.
Mhm.
419 is really just broad out there, and there's probably a lot of people that are got common Bermuda that was just growing in a field somewhere, and they're labeling it 419, but
Mhm.
nobody's ever really going to notice that. There's
Now
we're about
419 is
to
a type. 419 is a type of Bermuda.
yes, so it's a different strain of Bermuda. There's been people creating the newest and best Bermuda for 30, 40 years, trying to come up with the best strain that can do what's the Caddyshack play 36 holes in the afternoon. So there's always somebody trying to come up with the new and best strand of Bermuda. And I've
Yeah.
seen some really cool ones, and I've seen some that just weren't worth the hype. I know
Mhm.
one of the golf courses around here that I was working on, we had Champion, but there was only two places to get Champion in our region, so we'd have to have it shipped in from Florida from a farm that was growing it out there. And so that's what the course played well on was Champion. It grew well out there. The ball roll was good, so that was the strain of Bermuda we used. Another course was Tiff Tough. I've seen Tiff Eagle. There's a bunch of the Tiff variations. Like I said, not an expert in all this, but we're going to kind of deep dive into it a little bit more here in the coming months because we've got our soccer fields are going to be coming in. So I want to make sure that we got a strand that's able to keep up with the foot traffic and the kind of constant play that'll be going on there. Of course, we're not going to be as busy as a like a school would, since we will have public play, but it'll be scheduled in, so we'll be able to do maintenance outages and stuff like that, and do shutdowns for maintenance a little bit
Mm.
easier than your general school or municipality fields can do.
Right. And so now in South Louisiana, we see a lot of St. Augustine, but I don't think you could. There's no seed there. You actually have to buy it kind of
Mhm.
already grown, correct?
Yeah, and
That's
St.
probably how.
Augustine.
I grew up with I always laugh because we had half and half in our lawn growing up because we
Hmm.
had a side that had a large live oak and St. Augustine would grow underneath it. The other side was Bermuda because we didn't have a tree over there. So
That's
mowing the
it.
yard was you'd be bogging out on one side and running through the other. So I really enjoy St. Augustine, but it just whenever you got this open area and you don't want to put down as much water, Bermuda's just the way to go. St. Augustine requires a lot of water, but it's a lot more lush of a grass.
Oh
It's
yeah.
beautiful when it's done right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to get a good lawn of St. Augustine, but when you do,
Mhm.
it's
It
pretty
looks good.
refreshing. Yeah, it looks great. And same thing under these big oak trees, which I have oak trees all around me, especially in New Orleans and in Baton Rouge, where I'm from. That's mostly all you see under these big live oaks because I don't think they need a whole lot of sun either.
No, it doesn't need as much sun. The only thing that I really have fought with St. Augustine in general, since it does have more of a water necessity, it is prone to fungus.
Mm.
But that's just you throw enough heat and moisture in an area, you're going to deal with fungus. It's just what it is.
All right, so let's talk about all of your enemies here. You've got fungus, you've got bugs, you've got weeds, you've got thorns. Like, let's just lay out all the enemies that these poor grass guys are getting ready to go wage war against in Mother Nature.
Absolutely. I think everybody in general is fighting a weed, which the definition of a weed is an unwanted plant. So Bermuda
Mhm.
could be your weed. If you don't want Bermuda in your yard, that's a weed.
Right.
So anything that's unwanted, I mean, you can make a lawn out of poana grass if you wanted it to, and it's
Mhm.
probably going to grow great. It's more resilient than anything else. But I think everybody in this field is fighting some weed one way or another.
Mm.
And then, of course, every year it gets a little bit harder to get the right chemical because it probably caused cancer somewhere down the road here, or somebody got sick over here. So, I mean, everybody's heard the Roundup of the world.
Mhm.
So it's another one of those. Will just change the name and broadcast it in a different way. Weeds are probably our number one fight for sure. Um, Insects are kind of low on the list. It's not that a lot of people don't have that kind of an issue. We used to fight mostly like army worms were kind
Mm.
of our big fight, and then grubs because grubs are just moving around below the dirt level and they're eating the root zone of your grass, so they're weakening your grass overall. Same thing with your army worms. They're tearing at the base layer of your grass and messing up your yard. We actually
Now, what
one
do
of the
they
golf courses
eat?
I was on was we were having to kill the grubs because that's what the wild hogs liked. So they would come through and root up anywhere where we had grubs in the middle of the golf course. So it was like we were fighting two pests at that time.
Now, how about the golfers? What do you do with them?
No golfers around here, but we were worried when they asked us to shoot them.
That's it. That's got to be like the movie Caddyshack for the golf maintenance crew.
Absolutely, everyone's seen it, and everyone can now get every quote from it.
That's right. We need to make that one of our episodes just to kind of watch 15 minutes of it during the lawn maintenance.
I laugh because the first golf course I was ever on, whenever I walked in the office, that's what all the screensavers were on the computer, and I was like, I'm in the right place.
Yes, you're home.
So no,
Um,
there's plenty of things to fight with. I mean, that's half the battle, and then just making sure that you're mowing on the other side. It's keeping enough crew and enough time to get everything mowed constantly. But weeds are our number one fight. I think that's probably the biggest expense that almost anybody has versus, I mean, salaries and equipment costs. The herbicides are probably one of the highest costs out there. I mean, I remember
mhm.
one of our orders, we'd order a pallet of chemical and it'd be $17,000. And we go through
Wow.
that in a month just trying to keep everything down. Now we're doing large
Mm,
areas, we're doing 150, 200 acre areas, but
mhm,
still, when you've got an upfront cost of $17,000 a month just in herbicides, you're flushing a lot of money out there.
mhm. And that's purely to combat weeds, correct?
Yep.
Mm. Now, how about I know here we have these thorns that just pop up everywhere, the little ball ones that have little spikes
The
on them.
sandburrs.
What's
Yep,
that?
sandburrs are we don't have them as bad around here, but I've been in areas that it was, I mean, just almost ridiculous. You were not walking in the yard for sure if you didn't have shoes on.
Right.
Um, Now I've actually been surprised. They have a tool now that's kind of a mesh screen on a roller, and it
Mhm.
picks them up and tosses them into a little basket and picks them up out of your yard. So I'm like, man, I need one of those, because
No
everybody's
way.
been to the beach or walked in a dune somewhere and got 1,000 of those stuck in their foot,
Oh, I
and
know.
it
Those are
makes for a
terrible.
miserable day.
Yeah. And that essentially is a seed. So then you're
Absolutely.
dropping it
So
off. Yeah.
it's spreading.
You're making it worse.
Mhm.
All right. So how about like compaction and stuff like that? What do y'all do to fight that? Because I know, do you just try to cut in different patterns all the time and then you have like the little pluggers, or tell me what y'all do to combat that high traffic
Absolutely.
area?
There's if you're just your general homeowner, I laugh when I see people do it, but it makes a difference. You can order those goofy shoes off of Amazon that you just strap to the bottom of your shoes, and it's some spikes, and you just go stomp around your yard for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And you're basically doing the same thing without pulling a core.
Mm-hmm.
You're just getting that air and breaking up the compaction in that soil so that it can breathe and has room for the root structure to not fight through the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Areas that don't have as much foot traffic aren't as bad, or vehicle traffic. You're not dealing with as much compaction unless you're just in poor soil. Um, we have equipment to fix that. There's tractor mounted equipment that is on a rotating assembly, and it's stabbing the spines in the ground. You can do whole tine, or you can do hollow tine. So the whole tines are pretty just stabbing however you can set your depth on the tines. Or if you have the hollow tine, it's actually pulling a core out of the ground.
Mm.
So you'll have a pretty large hole. And then you come back through and you top dress after you sweep those cores off. You can top dress with a sand, and it just keeps that void open for a longer period of time, so that the roots have a easier area to grow back into and spread your grass a little bit easier. Grass does not like growing on compacted soil. It's just tough for it. The roots are only so strong.
Mm.
But I
Now,
mean, everybody, I think if you're dealing with lawns in general, I think everybody should take advantage of their local colleges that have agronomy programs or science programs that you can send off to. Like we have Texas A&M. So if I go pull a core sample in the lawn right now and bag a couple of areas, I can send it off to Texas A&M. And I think it's only like $30. And they'll
wow.
send me my entire lab back for all that dirt and tell me where I'm at dirt wise, and that compaction and all the different minerals that are in there, and tell me what I need. And so for $30, that's a great value for your local college to handle for you.
So they'll tell you the compaction of the soil, and then they'll say, hey, you need this type of fertilizer, which
Mhm.
is not found, or this area is fine. What are the fertilizers that you need? So maybe talk about the difference between fertilizers and pesticides.
Absolutely. So the number one thing that I think everyone's always lacking is nitrogen. So
Mm,
it's the first number, and anytime you look at a fertilizer, it'll be your first number in the bag, and it's usually always your highest number because it's what the lawns always need.
mm,
Um, so early in the season, we're always just pumping it full of nitrogen, and we'll slowly teeter off throughout the rest of the summer and just kind of ease into it. We'll do one application every other month as long as the soils are looking good. Um, their other ones are phosphorus and potassium are inside of those fertilizers, and you'll
mm,
see those numbers are standard. They're lower usually on standard basis, but always nitrogen is what you're looking for. We do granular because it's easier for us to distribute around campus instead of pulling a tank around. But a lot of the large scale operations are going to be using a liquid based fertilizer because it's
mm,
easier to set a tank, do your mix rates correctly, and go out and just spray everything from head to toe
mm,
versus doing a granular that may have like a slow release that it will get all the chemicals in the ground over weeks instead of in one day. So
mm,
you can know that 6 weeks from now you still got slow release going.
mm. Now, did you go to any school to learn all of this, or tell me about the schools and that you might have attended, or are you just kind of learning from the guys that you worked with?
I absolutely was just picking this up as I was going. It was a lot of drinking from the fire hose.
Mm,
Just get what you can from the information from the guys around you. Like I said, just be willing to listen and look dumb. There's a lot of times I've looked dumb. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, and so be willing to just
get right there with them and jump in and help and learn the basics of it. I spent a lot of days just doing research. I mean, we have a great wide world of the internet. It'll tell you everything you need to know, but be willing to get on there and learn something. If there's something you don't know, you're always just a couple minutes away from knowing a little bit about it. And
Right.
just take your deep dives. I didn't go to school for any of it. Like I said, whenever I got out of college, I went to school for welding technologies, and so there's a lot of learning you can do from just listening to the old school guys. And there's always something new coming up. So we try to get to a lot of our local conferences and classes and trainings from people around us, and just being on the Facebook groups, knowing other people and just being like, hey man, what are you doing? This isn't working for me. What's working for you over there? And just figuring out what does work.
Yeah. Now, is there any, have you gone to any of the state associations for Parks and Rec, or what's your involvement with just the whole Parks and Rec community?
So we just got back from TRAPS,
Mhm.
the Texas Recreation one, and we are scheduled to go to NRPA later in the year. So that'll
Oh
be,
yeah,
I think that's in Florida this year. So that'll be
it
fun.
is.
My helper here, it's his TRAPS was his first conference ever. So it'll be a big difference going to NRPA for him to see how large of a scale it actually is. But really, whenever I first got into parks with the Turtle Creek Conservancy in Dallas, right off Turtle Creek Parkway, and take care of a historical park, kind of got my first foot in the door with Dallas Parks and Rec, getting to liaison with those guys and kind of figure out how they were doing maintenance in that area, and working hand in hand to figure out like, hey, we're in charge of making sure that this property stays up, and y'all are in charge of the general maintenance side of things. So let's work together and make a communication line. And that's kind of how I got to start with a lot of the Parks and Rec stuff, is just the liaison basis between everything that was going on, and building a trust line for them to say, oh, it's not just Joe Blow complaining about something that's going on in the park. They're like, well, if Garrett's calling us, there's probably something bad going on.
Right.
So it's like, and there was a lot of stuff, if we can handle it in-house, we're going to do our best to handle it in-house, because I mean, everybody's busy, everybody's understaffed. And so got fairly close with the Dallas Parks and Rec team, and they're doing amazing things with the stuff that they've got over there, because they're just like everybody else. They're understaffed and probably need twice the amount of employees they got, and they're able to keep up. But a lot of the like friends groups and conservancies and foundations are the bread and butter of a lot of those parks in Dallas. They're able to keep boots on the ground and people that are looking over these parks, and they're their neighborhood parks, so they really care that they're upkept at the end of the day. So it's good to have eyes on for the Dallas Parks and Rec team to be able to. You don't have to always have somebody out there. If you've got somebody that's willing to make a phone call and go, hey, fountain's down, hey, grass didn't get mowed this week, hey, something's going on. So a lot of people watching keeps things up to date.
Yeah. Now, did y'all maybe talk about some of the vendors y'all saw over at Traps? Who are some of the vendors y'all use? And then also, what are some of the equipment that you need to be able to run a system like you're running?
Absolutely. So I didn't get to visit as many vendors as I would possibly like. Since this conference was in Allen, it's close for us. So we were kind of doing a work day bounce back and forth. We were coming to the office in the morning, then going to the conference, and then come back to the office. And so it takes a little bit of the fun out of it when you're not traveling for a conference. But we did meet a few people, and I do sit on a park board for my town that I live in, just the town away. So I got to meet up with some of our park board members there and look over some stuff and signage and new opportunities that we can put into the park system down the road. And then we always check out new equipment. I mean, we just got a new mower in this week. We just got a new tractor in this week, trying to make sure that we're keeping up with things and we're doing it at the most effective way that we possibly can. A lot of our equipment, zero turns. We just got our first stand-on mower, which was new for me and new for the crew.
Yeah.
So we're kind of learning that one right there. It puts a little bit more work on the knees whenever you're bouncing around standing up the whole time instead of sitting on the zero turn. So we're learning that one. But there's an invaluable amount of equipment that comes into these things, and I think it's always different for everybody, and it's great if you have somebody that has equipment that you could possibly borrow or go see how it works or see how they're running it. So we do have local park systems that we can be like, hey, I know that you've got an Air 2D2 over there. Can I go check it out? And most of the time the guys are like, absolutely. We spent a bunch of money on this. We want to see it work as much as we can.
Right. So what are some of the brands that y'all use? Maybe starting with the lawnmower, then I guess you've got weed eaters, and then you have a bunch of the pull the plugs out, or any of kind of maybe more unusual equipment.
So since I've been here, we've been pretty big with Kubota. Kubota's treating us really well. Their tractors are unbeatable in my eyes. We're doing a lot of work with their tractors. Our zero turn, it's a Kubota. We've got a diesel zero turn, and I mean, we run these things pretty hard, and we have zero issues out of them. Kubota has treated us really well. We just got in our first Skag stand-on mower, so we're going to put that in the ringer here this summer and really put it through the runs. But I've heard great things about them the whole time.
And how did y'all get in touch with them? It was just a local sales rep called on y'all? Did you see them at a Traps, or you went and sought them out yourself, or how did that work?
we have local vendors, and I'm really big on, if I can find somebody that is local and close, I always try to use that vendor over somebody who I'm ordering out from. Gives a better communication line. If I can walk in store and shake hands and talk with somebody, I'm going to choose that person over the next. Even when it comes to chemical applications, if I've got to have somebody come in and help me, I'm always choosing somebody local. I'm going to choose somebody that I know is doing good work. So people are more than willing to order a lot of stuff out, but I will go out of my way to choose somebody that I know is close by and is going to answer the phone whenever I call.
Now, how about all the other smaller equipment, weed eaters, blowers, stuff like that? Brands?
A lot of our stuff is steel, and everybody uses steel because they're bulletproof equipment. We do retrofit a lot of our stuff though, so we'll stick some like Echo parts on our steel weed eaters, because I think Echo makes a better speed head than steel does. So we kind of Frankenstein some bits and pieces together to make it more economical for us.
Right.
Just for what we're using day to day. But when it comes down to the small engines, it's usually always steel.
Yeah. Now, did you see any of these guys at Traps, or have you talked to any of the other dealers that you maybe saw there?
I think the biggest one I saw there this year was Hustler. And I'm trying to remember who else was there. I've never ran a Hustler mower, but I've know some people that do, and I've heard great things. I think Traps is just a bit small for a lot of these big companies. I know NRPA for sure, though, will have a lot of the big dogs will be out at that show.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And then what about some of the, odd equipment, like the spreaders or the pluggers or anything? Do you have any of that y'all use?
Absolutely. We Anderson is kind of my go-to when it comes to anything chemical wise. Their fertilizers are amazing. Their applicators are great. Their spreaders are great. Everything about Anderson, they've really fine-tuned. It works great for me, and they have a lot of user instructions. So if you know that you're using an Anderson fertilizer and you're using an Anderson spreader, then they really do lay it out for you. Hey, this is your rate. This is how far it's going to spread. That's how much you need. So they're really friendly to the general consumer. So if you're doing it at home, you don't have to worry as much about doing something wrong, because they lay it all out for you.
Now, how about, I guess another topic that I know is huge is, let's talk about water, irrigation, drainage. I know that's almost like an art in and of itself, and if it's not doing well, then your grass is really struggling.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just we had a break yesterday. So we're just starting spring, and of course we're going to start it out with breaks. So it comes down to water. You're not going to grow almost anything without adequate water. Whenever I first got here, they were running everything for an hour a day. So we kind of had to tune that back. You've only got so many hours out of the day, and you can't run sprinklers all day long. I really try to keep watering outside of, and a lot of the park systems, you have voids to where you cannot water. You can't water across sidewalks. You can't water between certain time periods because you have public. They're walking around. So you don't want to be watering the lawn whenever Karen is out there with her dog. You don't want to. So it's like you have to stay between some windows whenever you're in an actual park system. We get a little bit more leniency here because I know the schedule when everybody's going to be here and when they aren't. So we try to run it in the late afternoons, early mornings, and try to keep everything. Right now we're doing 3 days a week. We'll bump it up to 4 or 5 days a week in the heat of the summer. But really, I mean, it will be a pretty constant fight of adjusting heads, making sure your spray zones are correct, making sure we don't have weeping valves. We're making sure that we're having a lot of we keep a lot of stuff just on hand because nothing's worse than having to run to the store whenever you've got a massive leak going on. So we're trying to keep fixes on hand and pipe and make sure we got all of our supplies laid out coming into summer, and just general knowledge and teaching like my helper and some other people just on how to take care of general irrigation. If we have a weeping valve, I don't want to call somebody. We're just going to do it right here. So it's like, let's just take it apart and rebuild it. I mean, it's like I didn't rebuild my first engine until I rebuilt my first engine. So that's the way we take everything. It's like, try it first. If it doesn't work, it's a learning point. Try it first. Dig it up, see what's going on. So, I mean, we had one this week that we dug it up and they had encased a line in concrete. So what are we going to do? We're going to chisel it, add a street 90 and go around it. It's like, live and learn. That's right. Yeah. And so what is a weeping valve? Is that just one that's just not spraying right? Yeah. I mean, just like the one we were dealing with, I think it was Monday. We had a new system added to a lawn area and rocks had got into that line whenever they cut it to add new system, and they had blown up to the next valve. And so they were keeping the valve from closing. So that valve, no matter if it had lost signal, it still had a gap in it. So it was letting the water weep out of a head. So it looks like it's an actual leak when really there's just an obstruction in that valve. So we open the top side off, pull the diaphragm, a couple of rocks in there, blow them out of the system, put it back, good to go. But it's something as simple as that. Somebody's going, oh man, we got a leak over here. And it's like, well, actually, it's not technically a leak. You just got something that's in the system. Yeah. But unless you take it apart, you don't know. You know, it reminds me, in a former life, I was a master electrician. We did service work, and it was always, this is broke. We don't know why it's broken. And we've called other electricians, and you just got to sit there and figure it out. You just we call it troubleshooting, which same thing y'all are doing is you're just troubleshooting the system. You know how it should work, but there's millions of ways that it should not work. And you just got to go dig it up and find it and lay eyes on it. And that's really no other way to do it. Whoever you hire is going to do the exact same thing. You just hope that he doesn't put in a whole new irrigation system before they take that rock out. Yeah, that's right. They're like, well, we fixed something, but it's still the problem. We're going to replace it all while we're here. Right. Or a lot of times when I would show up on a job, the problem would just disappear. And I'm like, well, I can't recreate it. Call me when it happens again. Right. Oh man. All right. So let's talk about conservancies. I think that's something interesting because a lot of park systems work with conservancies, and I don't think a lot of people, it's not very well defined, at least for the community. So why don't you help people understand what a conservancy is and how it works and the partnerships that you've seen that they have with cities? The Turtle Creek Conservancy was my first real step into that. So that was a 501c3, and I laugh now because I've been on 3 different types of 501c3, C6, and C. Now I'm in a C12, and they were 100% community based. So if we weren't receiving funding from the community and donations and people signing in, then we didn't have funding to operate. So it 100% was on the community to take ownership of their community park. We had a large board. The board was very active. I think it was close to 30 some odd people sat on that board. They were very active, and I mean, they even paid their dues to make sure that their neighborhood park was taken care of. So the conservancy was a lifesaver for that park. And everybody's been to their general city park to where it's, I mean, you got a playground, a grass area, hopefully you get a pond somewhere in there, and somebody comes by and mows it every other week, every 2 to 3 weeks, somebody comes by and mows it. And that's your normal bottom of the bucket city park. And then you walk through other ones like Turtle Creek.
and you see it, and you're like, this place is beautiful. There's historical trees, immaculate lawns, the landscaping's done well. They're doing color changes every year. They're running weddings out of the place. I mean, it's amazing. It's beautiful. And that's where places like conservancies or foundations, and they've stepped in and really gone above and beyond and taken their neighborhood park and made it part of their community. And of course, they can only do so much throughout the year. So like weddings were a big money maker for us. Tony Romo got married in that park. They would have large, extravagant weddings because it was a beautiful background. It's a beautiful setting. So that was a lot of the bread and butter, but that came with its own line of repairs and things that had to be done because you had thousands of people coming to the park in one day. And then the equipment and set up for tents and trailers and vendors and food and beverage. And so there was a lot of cleanup and preparation that went on with that. But it was a lot of that was keeping our day-to-day running, was the funding that we got from those weddings. So it was like, as annoying as it was to have a wedding come in and break stuff, it kept everybody paid and it kept the flowers in the bed. So there's a lot of that you couldn't do without a conservancy.
Right. So now let's talk about maybe all the other things that come along with your job. That's not lawn maintenance, but like flowers, beds, any types of rocks or different things that landscape architects will come and put in that now it's your job to maintain. Let's talk about that workload on you.
A lot of the plans that I'm currently working with right now had kind of been set into motion before I got on campus. So there is some footwork where I'm able to look back and go, okay, this is what they were shooting for. Let's figure out how that best works. And there's been other things, and not everything works great. I mean, it's just not gonna. So we've adapted, we changed. Maybe this plant type doesn't work here. Maybe this gravel doesn't contrast with the sidewalks well, so we're gonna change this gravel. The DG's flowing out of this bed because it's got too steep of a grade, so we're gonna get away from DG in this area. There's a lot of those items where it's more than mowing grass. I mean, just in running everything, you need to be able to schedule time with your crews, know what they're doing, when they're doing it, and when's a good time to be doing it. So scheduling comes into it. There's a lot of the administrative side to where if you don't have somebody to do that, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to answer the email. Somebody's got to make the phone calls, make the orders, schedule your team to do this, do that, make sure that everything is, your day-to-days are running. So we're smaller on my side, so I'm able to play admin and still do some maintenance aspects at the same time. And we'll grow, of course, but there's a lot of that. That's the part that I enjoy. I like being able to pick up the phone and be like, hey, I need 60 tons of rock here next week. Can you get it? And somebody's like, of course I can get you 6 tons of rock. You got the check. So, they've gave me a lot of freedom here. And there's been almost everywhere I've been, they really do. Once you kind of show them that you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, they'll give you the freedom to express yourself and be like, hey, take it, do what you want with it, and show us how great it can be. So Rayburn's been amazing with that, just from the get-go, saying, hey, we trust your background, we trust your knowledge, make this place everything it can be. And we did. We just came off running, and it was already beautiful, and it's getting better and better every week. Happy to be heading into another spring and summer to where we're really in the depths of the grow season, and try out some new stuff that we put down over the winter and really see how it goes. Planting a lot of trees, got some of the smaller projects done that we'll be able to plant now and make everybody a little bit happier to walk around campus. We just had our health and wellness meeting this morning to really focus on all the employees, making sure that they feel great. Everybody's doing what they can to stay healthy. And so small things like having a mile-long walking path inside of our campus to let our employees get out and enjoy it. You want them to be able to look around too and go, man, this place looks great. Makes your walk a little bit better. If you got a conference call, just jump on the phone, go for a walk. We're working
Oh,
on our
yes.
trail system in the back now next to the creek. So whenever we get that done, it'll be another side of the walking trail where you can get down into the actual woods and enjoy that. So there's a lot of it. Really, some people, it's like I get to be able to see it and be like, hey, this is a real thing. We did this. You can go out there and go look at it right now. So it's almost not instant gratification, but visual gratification. I
Yeah.
like to be able to be like, hey, that was us. We did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Works
That's
on
a
both
beautiful.
ends of the spectrum. If you mess something up, people see it too. But
and they'll let you know about it.
yeah.
That's fantastic. All right, so tell us a little bit about what Rayburn Electric Co-op does, and they're a producer of electricity, so they're like the powerhouse, correct?
Absolutely, and like I said, not an expert on any of this, so I'm still learning every day whenever it comes
Mhm.
to Rayburn on the other side of the campus here. So I know that we're a G&T, so generation and transmission, and then our members buy the power from Rayburn and then distribute it to the residents.
Mm.
That's about as basic as it gets from my knowledge wise and
Yeah,
trying and understanding how that works. But so
yeah.
we have to prove everything that whenever our members are paying for our service, that what they're paying for is worth it. So
Mhm.
even my job, am I worth it at the end of the days for the member rate that they're paying? So, but they have the members all sit on our boards and they get to use the campus as they need also. So you want
Mm.
if they came in and say, hey, we don't love that that's a thing that's going on and we'd rather that not be an expense. I mean, that could be something they ended at the end of the day. But as of for right now, whenever everybody comes to campus and sees what they're paying for, they're loving it. But that's
Mhm.
kind of how my understanding of everything that goes on there.
Yeah, and y'all are a pretty large scale. I think, did you tell me y'all are like 2,000 megawatts under production or something like
Yeah,
that?
I'd have to look at the numbers again. Electrical side go right over my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah, that's the part I'm all like a kid in a candy store about.
Mhm.
Because not only because of my electrical, background and master electrician, electrical engineer, a lighting engineer, but now that I'm a full blown Bitcoiner, we're all about energy and the kilowatt. Because not sure if y'all know this, but Bitcoin community globally is looking for 4 cent per kilowatt electricity planet wide, and because
Mhm.
they're like the buyer of last resort. When you got no customer to buy your electricity, Bitcoiners will come in and you cut them a deal and they will just make it rain Bitcoin miners because they're always
Mhm.
looking for that cheap electricity. And they'll buy it, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a jungle, or at 2 o'clock in the morning. So if anybody out there has cheap electricity, hit me up and I can connect y'all with some Bitcoin miners, which are kind of just like old electricians and techs that just kind of got into this on that side of it. But I love watching that community grow in that way. All right. So let's brainstorm a little about this maintenance show that I want to start. I'm trying to launch it next month, but I don't know if I can fit it sometime in April. I'd like to do an hour show before this. What do you think would be good content for us to produce for maintenance people? Like maybe get the lawn equipment people to come speak, maybe a grass specialist or a chemical specialist, or kind of what would you recommend
So you're
that
gonna
channel?
have to do it on Mondays. We know that. So they're gonna be maintenance Mondays.
Maintenance Mondays.
Maintenance
I want to do
Mondays.
it 5 days a week, actually.
Just
Um,
yeah, just do it every day.
it'll just be before my noon show. It's just going to be from 11 to noon Eastern.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll get different people on there, but I'm trying to think of the different categories.
I think you really should. I think you should get vendors and experts in each trade to
Mhm.
come on and talk about, because I mean, for me, I mean, that's a sponsorship side of things where
Mhm.
somebody comes in and they're able to preach their word of their equipment or their what
Mhm.
they're selling, but also somebody, usually there's always somebody who's an expert in that field who's now selling that equipment. Um, and then I think there's a lot of those guys that even outside of Parks and Rec, there's a lot of those maintenance experts with grass and weed control and everything in between. I met a guy from Louisiana 2 or 3 years ago, and his whole job was to drive around this crazy looking boat with this arm attachment on it and scoop weeds out of ponds. It
No
looked like the
way.
most fun I had ever seen in my life, and this dude gets to do it for a living. I was like, I need to do what you're doing.
No
But
way.
he found his niche in Louisiana, and he would get rid of the top layer of weeds and ponds and scrape out ponds, and
Mhm.
that was his business. And I was like, that's something that I've never heard of before, and I've been doing this for a while. It's like,
Right.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
So people like that is another cool one that I'm like, I want to talk to that guy more.
Right. Yeah, there's so many cool jobs that you have in this, but yeah, so I think definitely the chemical side, fighting weeds. I know we could get all the equipment people to speak on that kind of stuff. Trying to think of what are some other categories that we would that you feel like at least the pushback I'm getting from all the directors that are saying there is not any content for maintenance. And so if you can make anything for it could be terrible content. It'll still be better than what we have.
Mm-hmm. There is, and that's what I think. There's so much that goes into maintenance that
Mhm.
people have made it not seem important because
Mhm.
it happens every day. So people are like, "Oh, well, that's just what we do. Why do we need to talk anything more about it?" But it's like you don't run without your maintenance, so everybody needs to talk about it.
Yeah,
Even whenever it comes down to like the mechanical side, I mean, 99% of your equipment doesn't run unless you have a guy who's fixing it.
that's
So I mean,
right.
that's how I got into it. Was I was fixing all the equipment that came down that was going down or need to be adjusted. Even a mower that's mowing greens. I mean, you're adjusting it by the thousandths of an inch whenever it
Mhm.
comes down to mowing greens. So it's like you got to kind of do it right, or else
Right.
somebody's going to see it. When you've got thousandths of an inches off and somebody notices it, you're cutting pretty fine tuned.
That's it. Yeah, I remember when I did cut grass. So the only job I've ever had in my life when I worked for Mr. Rogge Alexander, he's dead now, but I cut grass for the parks system, cutting baseball fields. And I remember this is probably when I was 16 years old, so 30 years ago. We had a little lawnmower graveyard, and we were always like cannibalizing old lawnmower parts and stuff to make the ones that we have working. And this one was perpetually in the shop, and that one you had to kick it a certain way to get it going. And
Yeah,
I don't know
just
if
sweet
y'all had
talk a
that,
little bit.
but there was always something half broken, not working right, won't start. I mean, it's just equipment's always breaking.
And there was always some old mechanic sitting in the shop going, I'll get to it. I'll
Yeah.
get to it.
Yeah, and he could fix it and nobody else could. He just knew how to smack
Mhm.
it and then it would start working.
So, I mean,
Yep,
that's what the field, whenever I came into it, was the same way. You'd walk in a shop and it'd been a guy who'd been there for like 30 years. And you'd be like, I can't start this tractor. And he's like,
yeah,
I'll get it. Just don't worry about it. I'll get it. He'd go out there and hit it with a wrench and kick it 3 times and then turn the key backwards and then forwards and it'd start. And you'd be like, how'd you learn that? Oh, I figured it out one day.
that's it. Oh my gosh, the finesse they have to talk to these
Mhm.
machines and they just get going and then you're like, "Man, I've been doing this for like 2 hours, couldn't do it." And he just
This
walks up
guy's
and does
been, I'm just wasting my time.
it. Yeah. I mean, they used to tell me, "You gotta hold your mouth right if you want it to start."
Mhm. I had a guy tell me, I asked him where the keys were for a tractor one time, and he said, they're in your pocket. What do you mean they're in your pocket? He goes, any key, it's in your pocket. And it would. It'd start with anything. We started with a stick.
Anything. That's right. That's it. Now you know you got a good piece of equipment.
Quality.
Yeah, that's it. Well, man, thank you for coming on the show. We definitely need to do this again. I'm definitely going to hit you up for our maintenance show as one of our regular guests that can come speak on this stuff. We'll just kind of make it to where we're talking shop. I think that's
Absolutely.
kind of what we're going to end up doing. So, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and definitely let's keep up on LinkedIn so you can help me kind of build out that maintenance show coming up.
Thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yep, and I will see you in Orlando. I'm gonna do a big show over there, so come by the booth, say hello. Love to meet you in
Maybe
person.
we can start up our maintenance right then.
That's when we'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, have an awesome weekend coming up, and hopefully the weather cooperates with y'all.
Absolutely. We'll try not to get blown away over here.
That's it. Take care, Garrett.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so that was Garrett James over there maintaining, I think, 100+ acres for a private company. And so you never know where Parks and Rec is going to lead you. The skills that you'll learn in Parks and Recreation on the maintenance side, on really anything in Parks and Rec, those skills are needed in so many other companies, even outside of government work, and they will come and find you, kind of like they found him. So, but I love that show because I think that's exactly the kind of stuff we want to do for the maintenance show. And I'm so glad we had that, because now I've really got a much clearer vision of what I want that to look like and the people I can reach out to. And after talking with Garrett, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know tons of guys in maintenance that would love to come speak on the show. So I think I'm going to I'm just going to kick it off and let the first few weeks of it just be kind of clunky, and knowing that there's no other way to launch it but just to go. So maybe I'll just start reaching out to some guys in the next couple of weeks. We'll launch this thing leading up to April. I might be able to do it April 1st. Maybe so. How about that? We'll do this. We'll do this sometime in the first week of April. Let me just look at my calendar. So anyway, this is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. If you would like to support this channel, please buy an LED light from me. And I will take 100% of the profit from that, plow it into this thing. And mainly because I've got this other videographer that is really good and I want to hire her. But I have to do a little bit of fundraising for us to be able to do this and tell y'all's story. I also want to start traveling a lot more and put together a road team to be able to attend a lot of these state conferences and really capture them. So I will probably need to pick up like a photographer, kind of like a wedding photographer, a wedding videographer that can just really film and photograph an entire state convention. And then we can send all that back to our video content creators and just create some really cool stuff. So to be able to do all this, I'm going to need some help financially to be able to do that. So if you are a vendor in the Parks and Rec community, would like to maybe sponsor our maintenance show coming up before this, or if you're like Outdoor Link, that looks like they may be coming to help sponsor the show because they sell a lot to Parks and Recreation. Or if you'd like to use us to maybe manage some social media, that's something that we have all the talent in-house to be able to do that. And I think I may just end up starting something like a little Patreon account for those that are really getting a lot out of this content we're producing. Essentially, we're just a media company that wants to make content for Parks and Recreation because it's an industry that's been near and dear to my heart. A lot of my lifelong personal friends are in this. And wow, y'all have such a great story to tell, and I want to tell it. It's what I want to do with the rest of my life, is just create media for this industry. So appreciate y'all allowing me to do this, and I appreciate all the love and support that I've been getting from the Parks and Rec industry. We're going to keep it up. And hopefully y'all can come on the show, and hopefully we're making good content that's useful to y'all. So love you guys. Thank y'all so much for this opportunity. I will see y'all here again tomorrow, 12 noon, for our last show of this week. And then we'll be back on Monday. I'll take care. Love you. Bye.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of Parks and Recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED Sports Arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the daily Parks and Rec show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.